Hi, this is Manjeet Kripalani. I'm the Executive Director of Gateway House, and I cordially welcome you to the 11th Gateway House weekly webcast. This week, we're going to be discussing India's space sector and its recent reforms, the opportunity for business. With me is Dr. Chaitanya Giri, our Space and Oceans Fellow, who has just published a detailed paper on space exploration and the opportunity for business in this. But before we begin to get to the nuts and bolts of the paper, we have to recognize that the current skirmish on the India-China border has a lot to do with space and satellites. So I'm going to start by asking Chaitanya. Chaitanya, the current scenario, the satellites have been able to place very correctly exactly where the Chinese set up their camp. It has enabled our troops to be able to locate them. What are the Chinese eyes in the skies? What do they have that we don't have that enables them to be so precise in their incursions? How has satellite imagery been helping them?
Yeah, thank you, Manjeet. This is a lovely topic to discuss, very close to my heart. This recent skirmish on the line of actual control has a lot to do with the space assets of both the militaries. Their ability to provide deep communications, their ability to provide geospatial data real time, their ability to really track the movement of each other's military units traversing in the terrain, the undulating terrain of Ladakh and Aksai Chin on their side. There's not much of a difference in terms of India and China's space capabilities. We are almost at par with each other. The only difference being that their space program has always been of the military kind, whereas our space program grew as a civilian program with direct socioeconomic goals in mind. So there's a vast difference in the mindset with which the space-based assets are built. In terms of differences, the foremost difference is that being a military program, they have been able to really bring in all the capacities that they have in the Chinese universities, the capacities that they have in their PLA laboratories, the capacities that they have in a chain of laboratories called as state key laboratories. And these all focus on a wide range of military technologies. And they have been able to really streamline all these diverse efforts through a consolidated program, which is called as Military Civil Fusion. Now, this program is directly under the control of Xi Jinping, but that's not the case on our side. Although the Prime Minister's office is the custodian of Department of Space, they oversee the Department of Space and ISRO. But that necessarily does not mean that the program is entirely built for military efforts. Fortunately, we have been able to now put our sight on the military aspects in a greater way. And it was only last year that the Ministry of Defense initiated a new military agency called as Defense Space Agency. Now that has been put directly under the Chief of Defense Staff and his immediate office, which is the Integrated Defense Staff. So our ability to really bring in these kind of efforts will be tested now.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that the Chinese private sector in space helps its military sector. So how can the private sector here in India similarly help our space sector?
Oh, absolutely.
There hasn't been very much interaction between them for years.
We can say there was not much interaction to an extent because we were more so we were fighting until now conventional wars and conventional battles. The recent event that triggered the use of space assets was the 1999 Kargil War. It was after that the Indian military felt the need for geospatial data, real-time data, so that they can track the movement of troops as well as track the movement of terrorists on the other side. But as we proceed into the future, what I feel is that uh, uh, the military will get more and more uh, technologized in a way, and that will bring a lot of technology, space technology at the center stage, and it will be difficult for any of the militaries around the world, including ours, to proceed without support, space-based support. And there is a great future. The commercial space program was recently, given a big boost through space sector reforms, the topic of our discussion today. And this commercial space program can work for itself, can work for ISRO and the civilian side of things, as well as it can work for the military side of things.
So Chaitanya, tell us some more about these reforms. How dramatic have they been? What does it mean? What does it mean for India and, as you said, for our defense, our civilian side, and for ISRO? And for our global positioning?
Yeah, I'll break it very simplistically. We are a young population, very aspirational, educated, technically educated, and we have dreams of doing great things for ourselves, our families, our nation, and for the humanity. Now, for such a nation, it is very difficult to pigeonhole space as a entirely government-controlled civilian capability. Uh, it is useful, it is important, but it does not give opportunity to a lot of young talent which could contribute. But since it is caged, it is gated behind walls of the government colonies and the government real estate, there weren't many opportunities for them. But now with these reforms, what the government has done is it has put the private sector at par with ISRO, at par with Defense Space Agency, and they've asked them, hey, come up with plans, come up with good plans, execute mission, plug yourselves into the international space businesses, the international space enterprise, earn dividends for yourself, grow the national economy, grow your economic heft, as well as contribute to the nation for certain, tailor-made projects of defense as well as civilian purposes. So it's a magnificent opportunity. Sky's the limit, space is the limit. It only now depends how our private sector views it.
So Chaitanya, for many years, the only thing we knew in India about space was ISRO. But as you have explained so well and so many times, is that an agency like ISRO is only about 20% of the space ecosystem. Can you give us, since India is going to be embarking on a new era of space, can you give us a breakup of the ecosystem? Does it comprise of 5 parts, 4 parts? And where does ISRO stand? And what are the opportunities then for business? And I'll come back to your paper in a minute.
For now, ISRO is the nucleus of India's space program. And it has been like that for the past 5 decades. Hereafter, you will have 3 different parts. One is, or maybe 4. One is an entirely classified defense space program. The second one is, let's say, a vertical in which ISRO contributes with defense space program for dual use technologies. Then you have a very vibrant commercial space program with a lot of space companies doing projects entirely on their own for international customers, doing it for themselves, doing it for governmental civilian customers, defense customers. And then you have a tie-up between the defense as well as the commercial. So all these will work with each other in different permutations and combinations. Now that makes the entire ecosystem rich. It makes it more it makes it relatively independent of each other as well as dependent on each other. The private sector will have to look out for funds from the international market through the businesses that they generate, as well as the government will have to support them through by the means of business continuity, by giving them contracts on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. Now, let's assume that the total strength of ISRO in terms of human resources around, let's say 5 lakhs. With the opening up of the private sector, you're actually bringing in more than 50 lakh engineers and scientists into whatever aspirations this country has. Right. So I mean, this is the starting point.
That's very exciting.
It's a tour de force.
So that's very exciting. And to think that we've had this dramatic opening up of the space sector in the middle of COVID. Do you know what was the impetus for this in particular? For at this particular time to bring in these reforms, were they dormant and they're just part of a larger opening up, or was it very specific?
You know, the government has been mooting about, you know, really bringing in the private sector in a big way. It was doing so by creating a host of, you know, contractors who could supply components to their various projects. So you have companies, big corporations like Godrej and like L&T, like Walchandnagar, like Tata's. They all have been contributing to India's space program in some way or the other. But there wasn't a break even for them. They were just catering to you know, very few, you know, supplies for, let's say, a fiscal year. But this is not the case anymore. You're actually opening up the market. You're allowing creativity to flourish. And this creativity will bring in a lot of products, which will have utility over the vast spectrum of end users. So you and I can be one of the end users as citizens, lay citizens. Then you have businesses who could be end users. Then you'll have government as an end user, the state government, the municipal corporations, so on and so forth. So there is a vast scope which was tapped for a very long time, and this has been untapped now.
That's just fantastic to know. So the dreams of every young person who wants to become an astronaut is just possible now. They can actually dream not just to be employed at ISRO, which is kind of a closed group of people. There's a whole vast new world, startups, companies, etc. And from what I understand, the companies, although they've had these government contracts, they've kind of been frozen in time. They haven't really been able to get out new technologies because they've been manufacturing the same things for years. Yeah. And that is going to change, right?
That's going to change. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's very exciting. So tell us, in your paper, you named the paper a space exploration industry agenda. Why exploration and not just a space industry agenda? Why is exploration so important? Because that's the hard part.
The foremost reason was that I have a background in the space exploration industry.
Okay.
That was
so you're writing about what you know.
What I know. The second reason was that our space exploration program has been, so this is the 20th year. Not many people know that it was around 99, 2000 when the Indian government contemplated that, hey, let's go to the moon. By 2003, Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee made the announcement. 2008, Prime Minister Manmohan Singh flagged off Chandrayaan. Chandrayaan finished within, that mission got completed within a few months. Then we had Mangalyaan. Then last year we had a partially successful Chandrayaan 2. Now, all these missions were carried out by ISRO laboratories. There wasn't much of a spin-off that trickled down, that percolated into the industry. Number two, when you look at Western missions, particularly of United States or Europe or Japan, for that instance, you would find that even their space exploration missions have great contributions from the private sector. Now, there is no rule book which says that only a government space agency should be tasked to carry out space exploration. Like I said, there is a huge bunch of talent which needs to be tapped, and that can be only tapped if private sector is brought in. And that's why I said that going to Mars, going to the moon, setting up a space station, going to an asteroid, mining on it, hey, the government can have a big contribution in it, but these are all businesses. And as our government has been saying, the government has no business to be in business.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
And for the very same reason, space exploration needs to be industrialized. Now, are we the first to industrialize space exploration? No. All our, contemporaries, the ones who are better than us right now in terms of economy as well as technological prowess, they all have industrialized it. You will find that in the next 10 years, there will be several missions going to the moon, facilitated by NASA, but built by the private sector. The data will be utilized by the private sector. And that's how you really sort of consolidate your economy, really strengthen your economy. Why we did so right now? There are two reasons. Number one, after COVID, this past 3-4 months have given a huge shock to the global economy. And every big country that has the prowess, that has the capacity and competence to go into space and make money out of it, they will make money out of it, because you want to create new opportunities. You want to employ the skilled population that you have in your countries. Number two, COVID or not COVID, we are on the cusp of the fourth industrial revolution. And that means whatever technologies that will be built, industry 4.0 technologies, 3D printing, you say artificial intelligence, you say machine learning, pattern recognition, all that will trickle also into the space sector. That means you have again a big explosion of innovation waiting to happen also in the space sector. And this explosion is something that none of the governments of democratic countries will be able to contain entirely by themselves. And that's why they are just letting all the barricades open. They're opening all the floodgates, and they're allowing the private sector to really come up and make the most out of it and help the national economy.
That's wonderful. So I hope the private sector does actually seize the advantage and come in.